Hello Wolfpack, let's get into the Bitcoin analysis today. Now, Bitcoin is in a pretty weird state. And the reason being, and the entire crypto market is like this as well, the entire crypto market is like this because, well, in 3 days, just about 4 days actually, we're going to be seeing an interest rates decision from the Federal Reserve in the USA, and that's going to determine basically whether the traditional markets can keep growing or whether they have to crash. And we're seeing that being priced in right now. And it's not hard to see. I mean, if you flip over the S&P 500, ever since November, these fears have been sparked, and we're crashing. We're crashing on the S&P 500 at a rapid rate here. We haven't seen in a while, down 15%, currently down 12% on the S&P, and that is because of the interest rates decision. It's because of the tension that is causing on the traditional markets. And so we have to beg the question, well, seeing as we're seeing all of this tension on the traditional markets, if the Federal Reserve do actually go ahead and they do raise those interest rates as people are expecting, what is that going to do to crypto? What is that going to do to Bitcoin? Because Bitcoin has never been around for a bear market in the traditional markets at all. Right? The S&P 500 has never been in a bear market in the entire time crypto has been around, the entire time Bitcoin's been around. There's no way to know how it's going to react to that. Now, on paper, some people would say, well, it's going to react pretty well, right? Because when traditional markets fail and when the dollar collapses or whatever, vice versa, people see the flaws in the current government monetary policy, the current government monetary system, and they flock to something else. However, it's not that simple because people also lose purchasing power. And if people lose purchasing power, they lose their jobs. They're not going to flock to something high risk like Bitcoin because, believe it or not, it actually is very high risk. And so, with that said, we're heading into an uncertain period in the next 4 days, and TA is going to be taking a back seat. But what I want to do is prep us for what could possibly happen, and prep us with the TA to understand where the resistance is that is actually important. So this Bitcoin chart that I have up right now is extraordinarily complex, and there's really no way to get around that. People often say that I overcomplicate my charts. I would say that, yeah, I mean, you have to. You have to. It's not something that you really have a choice in when it comes to cryptocurrency, when it comes to managing investments. You have to overcomplicate the charts because if you overcomplicate the charts, you have more information. And if you're an experienced analyst like myself, you can digest that information a lot better than an amateur would, essentially. But if I was to delete some things here, just so I can get a little bit of a more concise topic of analysis, let's just go ahead and delete some stuff here. And we can really narrow down what the important stuff is for Bitcoin right now, okay? So we'll do that. We'll break it down right now. So first and foremost, we have a resistance box, and this is a very important resistance box from around 40K to around 42.5K. Specifically, 42.5K is a critical region. We talked about that in the last video. Go ahead and check that one out. 42.5K is very critical, short-term, long-term. Above that, if we want to be a little bit more less precise here, we could say 45.5K is another critical region here in terms of messing up the chart. 42.5K is another critical region. Why is that critical? Well, for example, here on these two tops here, and then also on the recent top. Very clearly a critical region. So we're looking at 42.5K, we're looking at 45.5K. Those are both very important regions. In fact, what we could do is we could delete this whole rectangular support and we could bring just a plain horizontal line to 42.5K and apply that there. We can see those are the critical supports for Bitcoin that have kind of historically acted at quite, ferociously as support. And we can lower those down to around 2 line width because they're not that important right now. But another thing I want to be talking about right now, other than those two resistances, is this massive downtrending rectangle, okay? I've drawn this in recently on the chart, and I want to take a look at it right now. Sorry if it looked like there was a circus going on here. I just realized my lights were flashing on. But regardless, this rectangle is pretty important. It's coming from the 69K top, and it's also coming from the wick, and then also the closes. And we've drawn this down, we've extrapolated it out, and we can see it's acting pretty well as resistance on multiple occurrences here, specifically on each of these little dead cat bounces. For example, we rejected straight off of it here in early February, rejected straight off it here in late February, and then we've recently broken above it. Didn't really manage to hold it, and then recently also wicked to 42.5K. So it's acted as resistance quite a bit, and we're currently testing it again. In these recent two bounces, I would say those were mostly caused by global events and potentially a little bit of manipulation. And so I wouldn't take those breakouts too seriously, but that's why we also have this dotted red line, right? This dotted red line, which is stemming from these highs here in November, these lower highs. That was pretty clearly a concise straight moving down. And if we just kind of extrapolate that line and bring it all the way to here, we can see it's actually still acting as a resistance, right? Because what you can do to check out if old lines are acting as resistance is draw the line, extend it to current prices, and see whether it wicks off or not. And it's wicked off there on March the 2nd, just about 2 weeks ago. So that's still a resistance line there. And so what I would say is that, well, now Bitcoin's facing a bit of a challenge, right? Because Bitcoin is currently underneath this rectangular resistance. It's also underneath 42.5k, and 42.5k just so happens to kind of line up with this dotted red line, which we've just rejected off now. So we're in a terrible position in terms of a resistance above, and in terms of a support below, that's a different question. As for the support, we are holding just one clean yellow line that isn't really that well tested. I mean, it started forming in January, late January, so it's, solid 1.5 months, but it's nothing like any of these trend lines that we're seeing descending here, and we can only really hold this for so long. If we don't see a bounce off of this line, it's not looking too good. I mean, we've already seen an M formation on top of this line, and so, I wouldn't say it looks too good right now. Now, what I would say, and what I can say is that, well, if we drop below this line, if we close below this yellow line, that's going to be a kind of an immediate signal that we're going straight down towards 35k, where the last closes are. Right, that's where the lowest close is on this move down. And then below that, we're going straight down to 30k to 28k. And I think that will happen relatively quickly. We're looking at the next 2 to 3 months, which on a macro scale is relatively quickly. Yeah, and I think that even potentially within the next month. Do you know why? Well, because these interest rates decisions could do anything to the market. We don't know what's going to happen to the market because of these decisions. We've never seen something like this before. And that's what I'm saying. So technical analysis kind of takes a back seat. But, for all we know, we could do this and then dump, right? So what I'm saying to you guys is that, well, we have a lot of resistance above. We have not so much support below. And we have a massive decision coming up on the market that is generally negative. So you're taking the fact that there's a lot of resistance, that's negative. The fact that there's a little bit of support, it's kind of positive. But then the massive negative news decision that's coming out in the next few days, that is going to completely outweigh that scale towards bearish. Not to mention the fact, just adding to resistance, we have bull market support band, which is also resistance. We have Ichimoku cloud, which is also resistance there. Gaussian channels also resistance. We've got a lot of things. 50 and 200, they're both resistance. So, the resistance is kind of unimaginable compared to this one yellow line that's holding us up. And I really don't think it's going to hold. I think it will break, yeah. And I've just drawn in this yellow line here. I'm going to make it red because it is indeed resistance again. And this is one of the more important uptrending lines, right? So we've got 2 diagonal resistance lines, and we've recently, just in the last 3 days, come up and rejected off that. And what you will notice as well, that this line that I've just drawn in further supports or further bolsters this resistance zone at 42.5k. And so I would argue that it's very unlikely that Bitcoin is going to get above 42.5k at this point. If it does, it will probably be in the midst of a irrational pump caused by interest rates, and we probably won't hold it long. I really don't see how Bitcoin can break 42.5k convincingly at this point, unfortunately. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for Bitcoin right now at this analysis. 42.5k is still the critical region. We've got interest rates in 3 to 4 days coming out, so just generally a massive countdown there. We'll be doing a video every day to keep you updated on that, and when it does happen, of course, I'm going to be going live to kind of update you on the ongoing events and what actually happened with the interest rates. But generally speaking, right now, Bitcoin's looking very weak. It's clinging to like kind of a last hope with this support line here that I'm going to make yellow. This is the last hope for Bitcoin, the support line. We need to be seeing a strong bounce. If we don't see that, you can basically kiss Bitcoin goodbye in terms of the shorter time frame and also the longer time frame, but you could have done that back at like 50k. So it's not looking good right now. Please, guys, please be cautious. Don't enter any trades. Don't enter any leverage, long or shorts. I would not be doing that. You can do it if you want, but I would not be doing that. There's going to be a lot of volatility, a lot of irrational price action, and I've been instilling this for weeks and weeks and weeks now, so you guys might get sick of me saying it, but I need to say it because I get a lot of new people watching my videos every video, and so they need to hear it as well. It's very, very risky to be trading right now. Please make yourself aware. of what the repercussions of the interest rate decisions might be on traditional markets, and understand that we cannot predict how it's going to affect Bitcoin. And so the best thing to do when you can't predict something is to stay the hell away from it, because if you're in it, you're gambling. All right, and we don't want to gamble here. This is not a good place to be gambling, especially for the bullish argument, because the bullish argument looks 10 times weaker than the bearish argument. But thank you for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you enjoyed this new little analysis here, these new downtrending lines, this new resistance box, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.